Hi everyone, welcome back to Project No Buy. In today's video, this is going to be a little bit of an extra where I cover what I packed for a 5-day mini vacation. Now, I've made fun of packing content before, and I've shared that I don't really like to see it. And so I totally understand if you want to skip this one, and I will see you in the next one if so. No hard feelings. But I did think it would be interesting to kind of unpack with me. I've already gone on the trip, and to share the things that I realistically pack in a carry-on for a 5-day trip. And I'm only going through the things that I packed for myself, so I'm not covering what I packed for kids or family, what other people packed. But I will cover everything that I personally used and or didn't use and packed anyway. And it revealed some interesting things, to me at least, about what I actually need versus what I think I need, even packing as lightly as I did. So for context, I used this bag as my personal item and carried my viola as my carry-on. And that's usually how I travel, because most of the time I travel, it's for an audition, and I will always have my viola on my back as the kind of backpack carry-on. And I will use a kind of tote bag with a zipper to be my personal item under the seat in front of me. And so, technically it's going to be too heavy and too large for the personal item, but they don't usually care that much about such things, luckily. And I'm able to, usually for an audition, it's only 2 or 3 days tops, and I'm able to fit all the clothes and toiletries I need. For 5 days, it was a little more tricky, and it was also scheduled to be really cold. So it ended up being even trickier than we thought. But let's get into it without further ado. Maybe I will move you down here so I can unpack. We can unpack together and I can show you the things a little more easily. And again, I'm not going to focus on brand names, although you might see the incidental brand in this video. You've been warned. All right, so here we are in the unpacking zone. I'm not going to do any fancy overhead shots of the suitcase and the aesthetic packing of it and all the gizmos and gadgets available for you to purchase conveniently linked in my bio. No, ma'am. But let's go through what I was wearing on the plane first. So my outerwear was just this white denim jacket, which desperately needs a wash now because of travel and children. I think somebody actually ended up spitting up on the back of it, so there's stainage there. So that was my outerwear. Let me make sure there's nothing in the pockets there is something in the pockets, some saltine crackers, before I throw that into the laundry pile. Now, because it was so cold, we wore all of the sweatshirts we packed, which I had packed 2 sweatshirts and the kids had packed 2 or 3, sweaters for the 5 days. And we ended up stacking them for most of the days of the trip because it was much colder than we thought. Despite going to Houston, Texas, the weather was snowy and cold. So I wore this scarf to the airport. And again, it was handy for travel for a little bit of extra warmth. I had packed these leggings in my bag, but wore them under my jeans, again, because it was just necessary for warmth. And the jeans in question are the baggiest ones that I own, the most recent jeans that I've acquired as well, that you might have already heard about. Won't talk about them more, other than the fact that they are comfortable enough to wear in the airport on the airplane. So they're going to need to be washed now after being worn several times over the course of that trip in potentially messy situations. So one of the 2 sweatshirts I packed was this purple one, and I initially had this in the bag as well for when we were traveling the first leg of the trip before we knew how cold it was at our destination. And then the long sleeve top that I wore on the first day was this kind of t-shirt style top with Mickey Mouse on it. Hopefully that's an acceptable brand to be referencing. And I did end up rewearing this several times just to stack layers for warmth. So when I travel, I'm not super concerned about rewearing clothes, especially things like jeans, especially things like sweatshirts and shirts, as long as I have a layer underneath. So I did bring 2 of these tank tops. So the idea was that this was my underlayer, and as long as I had a few of these to change into or out of the underlayers, then I could rewear whatever was on top and not feel gross about it. Sorry if it's still gross for you, but that's just me when I travel. So to get to the rest of the clothing, this is the other sweatshirt. Again, just an oversized gray plain crew neck that I didn't really care about getting dirty. This is what I wore on the plane for the first trip, or first part of the trip. The other tank top, it's identical to the one that I have in gray. It's just in yellow. My other kind of inner layers were t-shirts. And I actually brought 3 and only wore 2, which, for a 5-day trip, I ended up making sure that I had 5 underlayers, the 2 tank tops and 3 t-shirts. I ended up wearing this t-shirt to sleep a lot of the times and wore this one for one of my underlayers. But what happened is that I re-wore the long sleeve several times, and so this shirt actually never got worn. So I didn't actually need to bring as many t-shirts as I did, but there we are. Even in packing light, you'll bring things that you don't actually need or use. And then the very thin kind of leggings that I brought with in case I thought I would initially be able to wear these kind of out and about, but it was far too cold for that. But I did wear them to sleep in. So it was kind of like a double duty item. Could be pajamas, could be something I could wear out. So that was all the clothing. Oh, and 2 pairs of socks. So I think I just took one of those out and another undergarment. And I did bring enough pairs of underwear, regular underwear to change every day of the trip, because that's another thing that I do want to have enough of. I think one of my socks is over there, but I just brought 2 pairs of these socks. And again, I, especially in cold weather, don't find that my feet get sweaty or smelly. And so I don't mind re-wearing socks for a few days. A 5-day trip meant, I guess, one pair got 3 days of wear and the other one got 2 days of wear. And, that might be gross for some people, but it works all right for me. And now they're heading to the wash. And honestly, I don't think anybody was close enough to my feet. Anyway, I wasn't taking off my shoes in public spaces. So I think it worked out. And again, sorry if I was stinking up your public area in Houston, but you're probably never going to see me again. So what does it matter? So this is the total amount of clothing I brought for the 5-day trip. And again, reminder that I was wearing this much of the clothing. And so only this amount was fit into that bag right there for packing. I did have this towel as well in that stack for any incidental spills. When you have small kids, you just need these things sometimes. I did bring a reusable bag just in case. Didn't end up using it, so clearly didn't need to bring that. I brought this just for entertainment. Not for me, obviously. Brought some gum, and I put my vitamins in here as well, so that, it was all in one place. My metronome and sheet music, actually, I have already put that away downstairs, so I'm sorry I can't show you that, but it's basically just like an A4 sized booklet of paper that went in the back of this bag. It's kind of like the support, and that's my metronome is for practicing as well. I have a napkin from the airplane, snacks, which I still have most of. So I ate one of these on the plane and then took some of these for the kids and still have 4 of them left. Have the magnets from the marathon that my husband went there to do. That's why we went. The sensory calming strip from the airplane entertainment kit for kids. And that Touchland sanitizer that I regret buying but decided to bring on the trip just because I already have it. Did I use it? No. Just making sure I don't have anything remaining in the pockets. Balloons, because it was actually one of my kids' birthdays when we were there. And that's it. Next, we're onto the bathroom bag that was also packed in here. And this is actually the category that got a lot of things that were not used, or the category where I packed a lot of things that were not actually used. So I wear a mouth guard at night. That's what this is. My manual toothbrush and prescription toothpaste, which I've already put away in the bathroom since I've already had to use that again. We just got back last night, so I'm literally kind of unpacking with you as we speak. Unaesthetically. Contacts. I actually never wore contacts during this trip. I always wore my glasses, the big purple ones here, and just wasn't bothered to put in the contacts, partly because the first day of our trip started with a 4 a.m. departure for a flight at 6. So we were already starting pretty tired and pretty sleep deprived. I already talked about how that ended up in a purchase that I didn't want to make or didn't want to. So I obviously did want to make the purchase on some level, but I broke my no-buy when I didn't want to break my no-buy. And I talked about that in the January recap. I'll link that here. Anyway, and then I don't know why I have this toothbrush cover here. I guess I could put that on my toothbrush. This is kind of my travel bag, and there are some things, I guess, that I just didn't check to take out of. And travel deodorant, which is nice and handy. Travel toothpaste, a hair tie, and then the rest are kind of makeup and beauty products. And guess how many of these I used while we were there? If you guessed none of them, then you would be more or less correct. So I did actually use the lip balm and the moisturizer once or twice during the 5 days, right? It wasn't an everyday ritual. It was just like, oh, maybe I need some hydration on my skin and lips, so I will pull these out and use them. But did I wear makeup a single day of that trip? No, no, I did not. And again, partly to do with being tired and, not putting in the contacts, not feeling like I needed to do, I have eyeshadow, eyebrow, eyeliner, mascara, the concealer stick here, the little highlighter stick, because I've been enjoying the highlighted look these days, a lip gloss, and I think that's all the makeup. Yeah. So these are all the beauty products. Whoops. These are all the beauty products I took with me and ended up using none of them. Did I find it better to have them and not use them than to wish that I had them there? Maybe. But it was an interesting kind of reminder that when I'm on a trip, the things that matter more are connecting with the people around me, having the family time, than it matters to me to look put together all the time, have the contacts, have the makeup looks. I didn't bring any jewelry to change or anything like that. The clothing I bought was all very utilitarian. The clothing I brought, was all very utilitarian. I only brought the one pair of shoes, and it was fine. I didn't really want for anything except for perhaps my big winter coat when we discovered that there was snow on the beach. We went to Galveston after the Houston Marathon. And first of all, it was very cold when we were going to try to find the finish line to cheer my husband on at the end. And it was freezing, and my kids were really having a rough time, but we did it. We made it. We made a sign, and we did have to buy the markers for that sign. So that should have probably been on my list of maybe no buy failures for January, but maybe I'll go back into detail in a later video there. It could maybe also debatably be something that the kids will use long term as well. So coming back in from that tangent, we went out there, we had our sign, we cheered them on, and then we had planned to go to the beach in Galveston for a couple of days so my kids could see the ocean, and there was snow on the beach. I'll maybe put a picture of that up here. So that's a little bit dramatic, I guess, and definitely an experience. And none of us had brought our winter coats. So, yay! When we arrived, it was a nice kind of 60-degree balmy winter day. But it quickly dropped into the 30s, and we were stacking all of our clothes on top of each other. So anyway, that was what I packed. I did also bring 4 books, believe it or not. So I fit all that into this bag and managed to schlep it along with all of the other stuff. We all traveled with carry-on only, though, just to clarify. We didn't check any bags, and we prefer not to. So I also brought these 3 books and finished these 2 on the trip, so it was worth it. That was on the plane. And started this one and discovered that I will be doing some of the exercises out of here on this channel in this month later to come. So there we go. So this was obviously a very stuff-focused video, kind of poking fun at all the travel content we see. I do actually have another kind of quick road trip coming up for another audition, but packing will probably look very similar, if not kind of even more minimal, because it's going to be a shorter trip and we're also going to be driving. I will need to pack one nicer outfit, so something like this, jeans and a button up, button down, for the actual audition in case I make it to the final round and they take the screen down, which is very unlikely. So I will probably end up wearing something more like this and jeans to the screened rounds where they can't even see me, and I just want to be comfortable. So there we go. That's how I pack to travel. This was actually a longer trip for us, 5 days. So I needed the 5 undershirts and 5 pairs of underwear. But other than that, reused a lot of things, rewore a lot of things. People on vacation aren't going to see me again, so it doesn't make sense to dress to the nines, especially not when I have to carry everything that I want to bring to dress to the nines with. It might also just be a phase of life. I'm not saying it's a bad thing if you do want to look good and put together and wear makeup on vacation either. You do you. Not saying it's morally better or worse. I'm just saying this is how it went for me in January 2025. All right, and with that, bye for now, and I will see you in the next one. And here is the unaesthetic shot of everything. The clothes, the toiletries, the books, the bag, and that's it. Panning over to my cozy corner of conscious consumerism, as I called it last year, with our hand-me-down IKEA chair and the rest of my filming set, aka bedroom. Okay, bye.